इंटरनेशनल एनवायरमेंटल लॉ में तमाम बातें हम लोग डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. मीन्स व्हाट आर सोर्सेज ऑफ इंटरनेशनल एनवायरमेंटल लॉ, how international environmental law has been developed by Western countries and has been spread in different countries of the world. And I told that one lacuna in international environmental law is it is said to be a weak law because of lack of proper effective enforcing international mechanism. So in context of these points, I am going to discuss about means of implementing and enforcing international environmental law. What are sources or what are means of enforcement and implementation of international environmental law. When we analyze different enforcement and adjudicatory mechanism under international law, we get that for implementation and enforcement of international environmental law, there are certain forums where international environmental disputes can be adjudicated. And these adjudicating mechanism includes national courts, the International Court of Justice, and some international arbitration panels. These forum generally require that disputing parties voluntarily submit to the jurisdiction of the court or panel. Because it is requirement of Institute of International Court of Justice that the disputed party must submit their jurisdiction to the adjudicatory mechanism to which it wants to resolve their disputes. And additionally, even when these forum obtains jurisdiction over an international environmental dispute, they must rely on cooperation of national government, because without cooperation of national government or national legal mechanism, a judgment or decision of international adjudicatory mechanism cannot be realized. For economic and political reason, these cooperations is often withheld. A small number of environmental agreements have established international institutions that can directly impose trade sanction, and amongst them Montreal Protocol is an important. Or have authorized member state to impose trade sanction against violating parties. For example, International Convention for the Regulation of Whaling. So, the type of sanction envisioned under Montreal Protocol and International Whaling Commission are procedurally very difficult to impose. In general, enforce international environmental law. There is no international body authorized directly. The task of direct enforcement is left to the member nations whose government propose and adopt implementing policies. Sometimes the implementing national legislation is identical to the international agreement, so they adopt international policies or laws. For example, Canada implemented Migratory Birds Treaty with the United States by adopting Birds Treaty Act, because the language of this act was identical to both countries. At other times, the international environmental agreement is a of general nature, and national government must draft and implement specific laws following the objective of that agreement. For example, in 1989, International Convention on Transboundary Movement of Hazardous Waste was signed in Basel, which is situated at Switzerland. This convention forbids the export of hazardous waste to the countries that lacks adequate means to dispose of them. Under the terms of convention, the signatory members are called upon to draft their own more specific national law to implement this pledge. Although international institutions are generally not responsible for directly implementing and enforcing international environmental law, but they play oftenly an important monitoring, informational, and diplomatic role. For example, the agendas adopted in 1992 Convention on Environment and Development at Rio de Janeiro created new international body, the Commission on Sustainable Development, which meets yearly at United Nations in New York to review and advance the implementation of Agenda 21. And most global agreements, such as the Biodiversity Convention and the Framework Convention on Climate Change, are implemented by an annual and biennial conferences of parties. These conferences of parties lacks power to bring enforcement action against either the government or private parties. They help monitor national compliance by requiring member nation to submit actual report through meeting and publications. The Convention on Parties also provide for a forum to discuss and debate issues associated with the implementation of the agreements. These are other institutions like Commission on Sustainable Development and Conference of Parties. For example, the North American Convention on Environmental Cooperation, which is based upon Montreal, and North America, North American Free Trade Agreement, which is known as NAFTA. There are several institutions similar to CST, Sustainable Development Commission, and the Commission on Conference of Parties. But in last some decades, states have also used economic incentive and trades bans to encourage compliance with the international environmental agreement. The most important example in this regard is Montreal Protocol. And the Framework Convention on Climate Change with Biodiversity Convention. The Biodiversity Convention provides economic incentives in the form of technical assistance, technology transfer, and money to build the administrative capacity of national environmental agencies. These initiatives have been of particular value in promoting the involvement and compliance of developing countries, part of Rio bargain between northern and southern countries. Here, northern countries represents developed countries and southern countries represents developing countries. And the Global Environment Facility, a new international funding institution, also provides money for training, equipment, and enforcement related to environmental protection measures. And some recent international environmental agreement, such as Biodiversity Convention, have designated the GEF as their exclusive funding mechanism. As far as the jurisdiction for dispute under court is concerned, the term jurisdiction refers the court's ability to hear a complaint, whatever it be geographical jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction, and pecuniary jurisdiction. If the subject matter of the case is not within the scope of court's jurisdiction, or if one of parties, either the one bringing the case, that is plaintiff, or the respondent against whom the case is brought, is not within the court's jurisdiction, the court will not hear the dispute. This is particularly relevant to international environmental law for a number of reasons. The first, if a treaty or convention does not specify an international forum that has subject matter jurisdiction, often the only place of bring a suit with respect to that treaty is in the member state's domestic court system. This presents at least two additional hurdles. If the member state being sued does not have domestic or implementing legislation in place to hear the dispute, there will be no forum available. And even in event that domestic legislation provides for suits of this nature, the judge who decide the case are resident of the country against which it is brought, then the resulting potential conflict of interest are appeared. Therefore, the Institute of International Court of Justice provides, if in the adjudicating body there is a member of there is a judicial member of one country present, then that party is also provided to appoint, to nominate, to be appointed an ad hoc judge regarding that case. इंडिया में भी कई एग्जांपल्स हैं, जस्टिस पी जीवन रेड्डी बनाए गए, इंडिया पाकिस्तान के मैटर में जस्टिस पीरजादा बनाए गए थे एड हॉक जज। तो ये सब एग्जांपल्स हैं कि जहां पे एक पार्टी का कोई जज इंटरनेशनल डिस्प्यूट में सिटिंग जज है, तो ये माना जाता है कि वो अपने कंट्री के इंटरेस्ट को ही सपोर्ट करेगा, इसलिए इनजस्टिस ना हो, दूसरी पार्टीज को मौका दिया जाता है कि वो एक जज को नॉमिनेट करे एज ए जज इन ओनली फॉर दैट केस. So, with respect to parties, only nations are bound by the treaty and convention. In international forums such as International Court of Justice, countries must consent to bring suit in order to preserve their sovereignty. So, it is often impossible to sue a country, and in any case, it is often transnational cooperation, not a country, that has violated an international agreement. So it is nearly impossible to sue a country for not enforcing its law against transnational cooperation or for not enacting sufficient implementing legislation. जैसे यूनियन कार्बाइड के केस में हमने देखा, अमेरिकन कंपनी थी जिसकी वजह से भोपाल में काफी लोगों को सफर करना पड़ा. एंड द फाइनल डिफिकल्टी इन द जुरिसडिक्शन इन द एरिया इज क्वेश्चन ऑफ हु मे ब्रिंग ए सूट. जनरली कंट्रीज में sue a countries, not individual. And not non-governmental organization. This has huge repercussion in that the environmental harm must be large and notorious for a country to even notice it. And for a country to have a stake in the outcome of subject matter, some harms to cross the border of violating countries into the countries that is suing. And even if transboundary harm does not exist, the issue of causation, especially in environmental field, is often impossible to demonstrate with any certainty. And in all fields of international law, no country is ever in perfect compliance with the international obligation. That's why it is called that international law is a weak law. Stark has quoted this statement that international law is weak law. Some countries are substantially more powerful than others. This is also the reason of hurdles of implementing international environmental law. This may seem self-evident, and unimportant until one considers that suing another country may expose the plaintiff country to retaliatory action. In spite of this political reality, however, there are certain cases of successful implementation, as Mexico successfully challenged the United States in the World Trade Organization in tuna dolphin case. And also several Asian countries successfully challenged the United States over United States effort to compel shrimps exporting countries to harvest shrimps without harming turtles. So the enforcement of international environmental law is one of most debated issue where advocates for a safer environment often finds themselves stymied. The entirely international law beyond the environmental field remains largely unenforceable. Even if a treaty or convention provides for specific substantive measures to be taken by a country, and even if a forum for litigation or dispute resolution is specified or sanctioned by the member state for non-compliance are authorized, the country cannot be forced to do what it is not willing to do. One can sanction the country, order damages, restrict trade, or most frequently declare non-compliance. But beyond that, if a country will not comply, there is very little to be done. So these are the problems. But despite of these, some positive thing is to be noted that what is the positive aspect of the enforcement of international environmental law is that if the country which is signatory member of any treaty wills to implement those laws in their country, it makes the law and provides effective mechanism to implement those laws. So